so I don't think. So how do we start it?
So thank you once again. My name is Colleen Sullivan. I have the honor and privilege of working with this incredible group of JLC associates. And I'm going to punch it over to Papa Bear over there, Ray Jorgensen, to kind of kick us off. But I just wanted to say thank you again for joining us throughout this entire 45-minute session and conversation. I encourage you just to continue to respond in that chat feature. We really look forward to your comments, your insights, and really your interpretation of some of the information that we're going to be sharing, because this is all about you and how can you really take some of this content and apply it in a way that's really going to help you get the results that you're trying to achieve. So with that, Ray, I'll kick it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I probably put more time into this one, and I'm a little bit I'm wondering, whether or not I have something that you guys will find interesting. I hope you do. I chased down a bunch of material, and it's all about resolutions. And believe it or not, the literature is quite mixed on this. Some people say, don't do them. They just make you sad. And other people say, oh no, there's real value in doing resolutions. So with that stated, I don't want to lean in one way or the other about whether you should or should not do a resolution. What I would like to do is share with you what can a leader do to make sure that a shift in intention produces the desired result. And that will, for me, I think, be a lot of fun to do. And I'll be able to talk a little bit about shifts that I had to make only recently through this experience with COVID-19. And I hope some of that allows you to see a space for yourself to go to that new spot. So that everybody that's listening, and me included, that I know how to sustain an intention. And I think that's the part that just makes me crazy about resolutions. I live in a community that has its own little facility, gym to go hang out and work out in. Prior to living here, I used to always be part of some gymnasium somewhere, either a YMCA or something. And my experience at the beginning of the new year was that the gym was so crowded I couldn't get on anything. I couldn't get on any machine that I enjoyed, right? And I learned after decades of that experience that I just needed to hang on, and in some cases not even show up for the first for January, find another way to work out, because by the time January ended, nobody showed up anymore. So I'm going to begin this with, what is your experience so far yourselves with creating intentions or resolutions around the new year? So Vince, how about you start us off? What have you really learned by creating an intention or a resolution, and then how did it work out over time?
Yeah, so for me, just very personally, I'm going through a significant financial transition right now. I've decided to, in a lot of years, purchase my first home that I'm building from the ground up. And it has really caused me to be very intentional and focused on how I utilize resources, my fiscal resources, kid in school, a new home. Things seem very stable and seem very stagnant, but at the same token, there's underneath, it's like a duck floating through the water. On the top surface, it seems very smooth, but man, underneath the water, my feet are just kicking like wildfire. And so I've had to really slow my thinking down and to be very intentional and deliberate in the things, the financial decisions that I make, because there are impacts that are coming over the next several months that I just don't see physically today.
And they will come. They'll be there soon. Good. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, so I think my personal experience is pretty abysmal. I think there's a considerable amount of hype around resolutions and around making a commitment at the beginning of the new year to do something different. I think my life experience has taught me several things. Among them, that the most important thing that you do is reflect. And again, I talk about reflection as the engine of change for all executives. And so if you don't take time to reflect, then you have difficulty, I think, seeing where you need to lead change. So I think I applaud the need for reflection that the talk around resolutions brings, because I think that's good. And for me personally, I think the end of the year is kind of a great time to think about, what do I need to do differently? I think it's also important, though, to take small steps in changes. It's as I said, nobody would. I think I used this in a recording we may have had last week, but nobody would say, okay, I'm going to get fit and put on athletic clothes and go down to the gym and then try to move a 500-pound weight and declare it impossible and themselves a failure and never go to the gym again. So no, I mean, if you intend to do resistance training, then I think you are intentional, and I think you start small and you do it in a way that doesn't hurt you or others. And but the reflection leads you into, this is worthwhile, and I must practice the discipline and see where this road takes me. And so I think that's the value in this end of year reflection time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's a piece there that you just laid on the table that's in the literature that that I read, that I'll share with you. And if I say, okay, I'm going to be fit, and then I start to go to the gym, and I come home after the first day of the gym, and everything hurts within 3 or 4 hours. I don't sleep well because I'm like, that I'm not really moving myself into a space of taking small steps to achieve an end state. And to Joe's point, and Vincent, he alluded to it, but I'm gonna kind of stay with this sense that if I start criticizing myself about, I'm just not going to get fit, I just can't do it, this is too much weight, blah blah blah, all of a sudden I am now critiquing myself, and in my reflection I begin to say, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to just feel bad by going to the gym. And this first piece that we're working on right now comes out of beautiful work by a gentleman named Peter Bregman, who says, how do you turn your inner critic into an ally? And he didn't use exactly that language. That's how I interpreted it. And I loved his work. I really do. It was very nicely done. And how do I become an ally to myself? How do I create an affirmation about what it is that I'd like to see my future look like in a way that it stays with me? So my reflection allows me to improve a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And my personal one is when COVID started and I was pretty much out of any opportunity to work out, my wife bought one of those stationary bikes for the house. And after a few days of getting on the bike, which I did, things hurt. And I was to the point I could have said, I'm done. Yeah, this hurts. And the work that we do as a team puts us in this space of speaking about myself to myself in a different way. And so my shift was, I love riding. I love it. I can't wait to get on the bike today. It was just the difference between criticizing myself because of my lack of conditioning that's not allowing me to enjoy the ride, to, in here, mindset, I love this activity. I look forward to this activity. That is, if you're really thinking about a shift inside self, the ally in you, as you reflect, shifts into, I want this, I love this, I am a biker, I am somebody. See what I mean? It's a small shift in language that has tremendous impact in building a mindset that will allow you to achieve your end state. And I couldn't agree more with Joe about the idea of reflection. Sometimes I think New Year's is all about reflection. And as you know, New Year's are different in different cultures. And they go through similar things about reflecting and then saying, I think I want this in this next year, in this next month, this next whatever. small steps, and shifting that affirmation to self. Colleen, what are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I really like what I'm hearing around being intentional to pause and reflect.
Mm.
And the other big piece I'm hearing is also how your self-talk really creates your own reality. And it creates how you behave and show up. And so my invitation might be, because we have a lot of our clients, they talk about, okay, I've done my self-reflection, I've got some new strategic goals, I've done my annual plan, and here we go. I'm going to roll it out and we're going to make it happen. And there's a lot of momentum and energy, just to your point, just like when people show up at the gym, right? The gym's crowded for a while and then it starts to peter off. So how can we ensure that we are being exceedingly focused, right? And we talk a lot about relentless repetition. How are we ensuring that not only in our self-talk, but in the language we're using with those we lead, that we ensure we keep visible what it is we're trying to achieve. So we're not just going, oh, if we're through the quarter, wait a minute, we had some change champions. Let's check in and see where we are. How can we ensure that every day, if I really, because this is how I operate, I wake up every day and when am I going to the gym? I am so intentional. I book out the time I'm going to go to the gym, just like I book out my calendar with appointments. So my invitation is, it's that being relentless about keeping that top of mind. Otherwise, we can have the momentum and I can reflect, just like Joe said, but without being really, really intentional. How am I going to sustain my momentum to ensure that that's achieved?
That's very nice. So, a statement about what it is that you want, your intention, your affirmation, right? And then to create a plan to support that intention. I thought that Vince is saying, I have some things have changed, and I need to think about what is the affirmation, the intention that I need to develop so that people that can't see me kicking so hard under the water, I can eventually keep kicking, but not have to kick so hard, so long, to the point that I'll get tired. I think that's what happens. We sometimes get tired. Vince, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I really like what everybody tied a lot of ideas together. So what I was thinking, Colin, you said a couple things that really came to the forefront for me. Top of mind, I heard you use that, and also how you show up. And so what that looks like to me, Joe, when and Ray and Colleen, when I'm leading a group, yes, how I show up is very, very important. It doesn't have to be complicated. Whether it's like you like the gym or, hey, I enjoy my job. I enjoy coming to work and executing this mission, whatever that organization's objectives are. The way that your body language is when you show up, do you show up with a smile on your face and say good morning to everyone? Do you show up with your shoulders sloped and your head down? So the way that you show up really is a nonverbal communication of your affirmation of what it tells people around you, what is truly at the top of your mind. And also keeping things very simple. People need a lot of repetition and reminders of why are we here? We're here for the team success, and your ability as a leader to remind the team in very non-complicated language and simplified steps is also critical. So how you show up is what I heard, and how you communicate in repetition with the team are two things that really rose to the top of mind as I listened to my colleagues speak.
Yeah, I love enabling this team to accomplish its end state. Each end state that a human being has is connected to the larger vision and mission. So that ability to say for self, I'll show up differently if I think my work is to enable these people to be successful. That's different than showing up and doing it for them. This was a very interesting piece in literature that you have to be careful not to drift into rescuing people that start to slip, but giving them space to develop their own affirmation and their own picture of success. And you also talked about leadership presence, which is if my head's down, my stance is one of sadness or worry or fear, as opposed to I'm standing straight. I'm looking at you in the Zoom, even on Zoom right now. Stance matters. Joe brought this up. In one of our team calls not too long ago, that some people show up like this, and all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, what did I do? Am I in trouble here? As opposed to shifting your stance just slightly so you're looking like I want to hear what's on your mind. So once you're able to model, this is how I'm going to be an ally to myself, my stance changes, and my talk changes, and my focus changes. Where I see people getting in trouble in these very, very complicated waters that we're swimming in right now is they lose focus. They start doing something about all of the things that are happening, and they say, well, I can't lead like this because it's too uncertain, it's too ambiguous. Yeah, that's true. And living in this world that is not going to change, this ambiguity is not going away. How do I show up in a way with my leadership stance focusing on what's most important? Vince, that was great. Joe, what are you thinking now?
Yeah, so we've touched on some of these things before, and I've certainly used them in my coaching practice. But we talk about the self-talk and the importance of self-talk, and the fact that, in a given day you have 50, 60,000 thoughts. And so I think a little bit of talk about this is good, because we don't necessarily think about these things in an obvious way. All of those thoughts floating around in our heads, I mean, many of them are trivial, but they don't just go away. They collect and coalesce into beliefs, and the beliefs take on emotions and meaning, and we feel compelled to act on those.
Incredible.
And so to Vince's point, executives many times feel like that their job is to be kind of steady and stable and always up the middle, and that their organization will perform best if that's where they are. And I think I believed that at one time myself. I think as I had more experience in the executive ranks, I began to understand that as an executive, you play a real role. And again, the group really looks to you. And so how you show up is very important. Sometimes the group may need discipline. Sometimes the group may need accountability. Other times they may need inquisitiveness and vulnerability and openness and learning. At other times, they may be beating themselves against pretty hard obstacles, and what they need are the leader to think about the resources that are on this task and about what adjustments need to be made. And so these are very different roles. And I think as an executive, you learn to spend some amount of time before each of your engagements thinking about, how am I going to show up in this meeting? What do they need me to do? Because if you are listening only to your self-talk, as demonstrated through research, is going to be predominantly 80% of it is going to be negative. Okay. And so if you let your self-talk unbridled flow to the group, you're going to be portraying a pretty negative point of view. Whether you intend to or not. In fact, most leaders are not trying to portray a negative point of view. They're trying to take positive steps to move in another direction. And so that's what's on my mind.
So the part that you're bringing forward to me, and I know we have some people online with us today from as a sales organization, and your sense of self-talk is absolutely spot on. So if I think this is as much as I can do, if I have a belief this is as far as we can go in this market area, that's as far as you can go. And a statement that I've made to people in the sales world, I've been in many, many sales organizations, is that you don't actually behave to the opportunity or the actual ability to achieve more. You behave to your beliefs. And if we're not careful, to Joe's point, our beliefs are pretty self-limiting. And if we don't recognize, that's going to slow us down unless I shift my self-talk. Because I'm not going to show up, to Vince's point, ready to go, ready to take on whatever the next challenge is, unless I actually believe I can. And the way the belief is crafted is in how you talk with yourself. A belief is a mindset. If I think this is as good as we can do, that's as good as we can do. If an athlete thinks, if Georgia thought, We can't beat Alabama because, they beat us last time and they beat us in all these other spaces. If they show up even a little bit talking to themselves about that, we're in trouble. A lot of the work of a leader of a college team is to help first the leader and then those in their care to practice self-talk that will bring them to another level. Otherwise, I will behave to my belief, not to my capability or opportunity. I think people miss that so dramatically in this world of business and certainly in this world of sales. So keeping that in mind going forward is critical. I lose myself very often in my own critique of myself. It's easy for me to be mad at myself. I was raised in an Irish Catholic family. I went to confession before I was really sure what the hell it was. Now I had to go and figure out, well, okay, well, what's wrong with me? You have sin. Okay. Now, so it's almost as though my entire development, and truly the development in most of the schooling structures in our world, are about identifying what's wrong with you, not what's right with you. We come by this negative bias, this critiquing capability, very, very honestly in our development. Colleen, back to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer something really quickly. So just talking about how your self-talk is reflected in your behavior, and many times in your language as well. I know we talked about that. So I do have a couple things that I'm going to bring up that our audience is typing in. But my son Cole, when he was 10, he decided he was going to play Little League Baseball with my stepson, Max. And so when Max would step up to the plate, boy, he was aggressive. He squared up tight. He had a hold of that bat and he was swinging with everything he had. When my son stepped up to the plate, he was kind of leaned back. He was a little bit timid, and it was very, very clear what was going on in his mind. What was going on in my son's mind was, because I asked him this, I don't want to strike out. But when I talked to Max, I said, Max, what were you thinking when you were up there at the plate? He's like, I'm getting a home run every time. So much of this self-talk, even with our kids, you can tell in their language and how they behave, because it can very much indeed be a limiting factor, and they don't even know it.
No, they don't. And you just talked about the distinction between fear and excitement. Sometimes people are afraid to actually go up. In fact, they're hoping they don't have to go up to bat, or hoping they'll get hit, and rather than actually. Exactly. How many kids have I seen do that? They lean into a pitch so they don't know if they're swing at it. While there's another kid going, I want to be up. I want to hit the ball. I want to play. I want to play. I want to play. So the connection between performance of an athlete and performance of a leader, I think, is one-to-one. I don't think people always recognize that distinction, but it's there. Did you have a second thing you wanted to offer, Colleen?
Sure. I've got some input here. We've got someone that typed up when I asked, what do you do to keep your affirmations in a positive space? And it says, I use a daily journal that helps me capture areas where I want to learn, reflect, and grow. By writing things down first every morning, it helps me stay focused. They say that how you begin your day sets the course for the rest of your day.
Yeah, it does.
That's
so,
lovely.
Gentlemen, anything to offer?
Did you
I'm
say,
sorry, who
Joe,
was that
do you have
directed?
anything? Yeah. Do you have anything to offer just around that piece around reflection and even journaling?
I think journaling is good. Again, I think it is it's a discipline. I think people tend to have guilt. They keep journals and they go, "Oh, I haven't written in it this week, so therefore I'm bad, and I can't keep a journal," and so they stop writing in it. No, I mean, if you look at all the great people through history who kept diaries, they were inconsistent. Permission granted to be inconsistent. Permission granted to write in it, when it's helpful to you, because the more reflection, the better. And again, I think reflection is an important piece of any executive's time. And again, more and more, with the advent of all the technology that we have, reflection is something that is turning into the few minutes you might have in the car on your commute, or that you might have in the shower. But hey, the iPhone is waterproof, so it's coming into the shower with you. So it's you're less and less able to find this time to reflect, and it is so key, so important. Again, if you look at people who have been successful, they talk about this. They talk about their need to have a time when they close the door. I'm not taking any calls. I'm not here. I'm doing deeper thinking, me and this yellow pad of paper about what are our issues and where are we going.
You know, Joe, the number of business leaders, small business leaders to Fortune 50, Fortune 100, doesn't matter, is coming up near 90% of the successful ones are using an executive coach. And they're doing it in order for them to have a mirror, to hold up another human being as a mirror to help them learn about how they're doing, even in how we reflect. So I thought the permission granted was great. If you haven't written in a while, just write today. In terms of the second part of the question, I'm going to go to you, Vince, to have your thoughts in a moment. When you create an affirmation, it's really, there's a very simple formula. It can't be somebody else's affirmation. It has to be yours. And here's what it sounds like. First person, I. Present tense, you write as though it has already occurred. Future focused. For example, I wasn't happy about riding the bike when I got going. And I can take riding the bike to my first year as a school principal. I was scared to death and I wasn't sure I wanted to do it at all. And my sensibilities about this affirmation work grew very slowly over time with I learned best with a 2x4 to the head. Like, okay, I got it, now I should do that. But this ability to write an affirmation in first person, present tense, future focused. I love working with Colleen. I love creating the future with Joe. I love working with Vince when we're really grappling with a leadership issue at a command. Those are affirmations. They're first person, present tense, and they may not be so today, but it is absolutely, absolutely my end state. My end state is the relationship I have with this woman and these two men needs to be pristine in order for our little company to be effective. And effective in my mind is that the people that use us get something out of it. So this ability to write in first person, present tense, future focused, it is everything. And if I can't do that, then I'll let other affirmations, negative ones, sneak in. And Joe gave you the stats on that. They're not happy. Vince, what are you thinking, brother?
Yeah, so, as you were talking, one of the things that I was thinking about was the importance of vulnerability. So to really be honest with your affirmations, it requires a little bit of humility and within yourself. And what you also said just about our team, most leaders have a number two or a number three, one or two people around them. Creating that alignment, I think, is also critical because to get that humility and that honesty in the organization, sometimes you need to kind of sit with that small team and go, hey, what did we do right? Or what did I do right today? Or what could I have done better? Now you're able to take that true, honest information from those that are closest to you that you trust, and you can really develop honest affirmations that will help you as an individual. But most importantly, the overall goal is you're really working to help the team. The team and the people around you is the driver for all of this. And so as you were talking, that's what I was thinking about. And those are the thoughts that really rose to the top of my mind.
Love it. So one of the things, Vince, that you and I do together, and Joe and I have done it, and Colleen and I have done it, we've done it as a team. I regularly use after action reviews to improve my performance as an executive coach, as a facilitator of a meeting, whatever it is I'm doing. I regularly practice after action reviews. And Vince laid it out. They're not hard, guys. The Army was supposed, although Joe and Vince may disagree, the Army supposedly was the first one to write about after action reviews. Their model is not the model that we use here at JLC. Here's our after action review. What was my intention? We had a meeting today. What was my intention for the meeting? What did we do? What did we learn? What will we do differently next time? We are avoiding the side of the negative critic that's going to criticize you did this wrong. Nope. What was my intention? What did I do? What did I learn? What will I do differently next time? those are critical components where you're actually speaking to yourself about improving your capabilities to have a great conversation, which is what a great meeting is, a series of wonderful, focused conversations. Colleen, what else is coming in?
You know what else is one thing that resonated with me when you mentioned that? I think that especially when you're leading a team, because I really like this after action review and the importance of reflection. And really what Vince was saying again is it's really important that you keep focused on the team winning. And I think a limiting factor can be when you have the critic in you and not the ally, it comes out in your language. And if you're sitting around the table and someone is using critic language, which is judgment, they're feeling it and
Yeah.
it feels different. And what does that do? Oh my gosh, boy, does that impact the space that your team has to offer their thinking, to really lay on the table maybe an issue that's surfaced. Well, they don't want to do that anymore because they're feeling this critic pushing at them and judging them. So I think it impacts the safe space and that collaborative environment that's when the team wins. I mean, the team wins when we have a safe space where people feel in their heart that I know Joe is my ally. I know it. I know everyone on our team is my ally, which is why I feel like in our meetings, we can offer our best thinking. We can ask a question where I'm feeling like, gosh, Vince is going to think I'm stupid if I ask this, right? No, he's not. So when we can get to that space,
He might anyway, but okay.
he might anyway. That's true. That's true, especially because I didn't record the last webinar. But anyway, once you can get to that space, it feels different. And we do have a couple things coming in.
Let me just hold you there for a second before I take that. So if I go to Joe and say, Joe, what took you so long to get that report on my desk? That's a judgment, it's a question, but it's not really, it's a judging question. As opposed to, Joe, how you doing? Help me understand how things are going with you and how you're doing with hitting your timelines and deadlines. Are you in learning or are you in judging? So one of the big affirmations you can create as a leader is, how do I show up in learning rather than in judging? Now, to Joe's point, sometimes somebody's not doing what they should be doing and there's a pattern of behavior. You need to lean into that conversation. You need to have that conversation when someone presents a pattern of ineffective response to what's going on or a pattern of misbehavior. I don't like that word very well, but not acting well in a team meeting. That's a requirement for us to step into that space. But notice the distinction. Very simple. Am I in learning? Is it an in learning question or am I in judging? Judging and thinking and learning, they're kind of different, and we got to stay there. Who else had something for us, Colleen?
So Ray, let me,
ahead,
I'm an advocate for vulnerability, as you know.
Yeah.
But let me pose a question to you. So, so the little vignette you brought up a minute ago. So you're asking me about a report that's late. Okay, I think that's a very common kind of a conversation that people can have with their supervisor, and many times through thoughtlessness or whatever, it's not an indirect approach. It comes across just as you posed it, as a judgmental, hey, why is my report late? So if I as an employee, so my question for you is, if I as an employee respond to that with vulnerability, isn't that going to take me to a negative or a bad place with that supervisor, because they're already judging me, and then exposing my vulnerabilities here, isn't that going to just make me subject to more criticism?
Well, I'm wondering if that would happen instantly. So the question is, has the leader of that human being actually developed a space that is safe to have conversation? So Joe, you could do this to me now because I already love you and I know what our relationship is like. It's magnificent and we are vulnerable with each other. So if you said to me, Ray, why are you going to send me that thing from a Harvard business thing? What happened? I would not feel judged. I would feel like you needed something from me and I let you down. So I would respond in a vulnerable way because you have spent the necessary time to build safely dangerous space. If the leader does not spend the time to build that kind of space, I'm going to live in that critic world rather than the ally world. I don't want to be a critic of you. I want to be an ally. But that's not a one-shot deal. That just doesn't. Today, everybody, let me tell you, I'm going to be much more loving and friendly today. So don't worry about anything I might say to you, make you feel bad. Please say what's on your mind. And they're all going, no, thank you. I'm not going to say a damn thing that's on my mind because that's going to come back and bite my ass. So we have to build this capability where I think you all, the three of you know this. I am absolutely, mutually, 100% invested in your success, and I believe you are mutually invested in my success. I believe that with all my heart. Notice, those of you that are listening, in a sense, that's an affirmation. We are mutually invested in one another's success. A powerful statement. So if Joe says, Ray, what happened to my article? I'm not going to go, oh, Joe's going to be mad at me. Oh, Joe's going to judge me. No. If the space is right, I'm going to say, Joe, I got stuck with family issues. I didn't get it to you. I apologize. I'll get it to you as soon as I can. Other than I start to defend myself, because you know the deal. If I'm in an unsafe space and someone's attacking me, I will defend. And defending is always losing. Always losing. Joe, that was a great provocation. Thank you. Vince, what are you thinking on that? Because you
Yeah, I'm
lived in
thinking
this world a lot.
equally what's more important, Joe. I was that was deep, man. So you ask a question of a staff member and they respond to you vulnerably. So number one, I think yes, if they respond to you vulnerably, I would have to say you probably already created an environment where they have enough trust to go ahead and just lay it out there and say what happened. They don't have it. But what's most important is how you react and respond to their answer. That to me really sets the stage for the relationship. You know, you go, they say, hey, I forgot, I left it. You go, hey, listen, that's okay. Let's, what can I do to help you? As opposed to, well, it was due an hour ago, so you got 5 minutes to have it done. As I was listening to you talk as well, Colleen laid something on the table for me just the other day. She was talking about her son. Colleen, I don't know, you talk about these different state, what creates a trend, right? Another tool that you can use.
1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot.
Yes, I thought that was tremendous. Maybe if we got time, maybe you should share the 1 dot, 2 dot, because it really helped me see visually, how do you look at a leader, what a trend is and what an outlier is?
Sure, no, sure. That's a kind of just a system statement. And I think that we can go back to the example that we've been using, right? As a leader, if I ask Joe to send me something, right? And we have that exchange, I ask him, where is it? Do we have safe space? He comes back to me. That's 1 dot. It's happened 1 time and it's an event. It might be an anomaly. He's been busy. We've been out on the holidays.
He's been drinking, all that happens.
You just never know, right? You never know. 2 dots, it happens again. Now I find that interesting. Is it a pattern? Not yet. Not yet. So I don't want to react in a different way. I still want to reflect and respond in an encouraging, positive way. On the 3rd dot, now event, now we have a pattern. 1, 2, 3. If something's happened 3 times, that's a different conversation. A pattern has been established, and now we need to have a different type of conversation. So I think that's really important, because sometimes if something happens 1 time, boom, especially with the kids, right? I jump down my son's throat. What, are you kidding me? It could be an anomaly. We don't know. So I think it's important to recognize, has this happened once, or has it happened 3 times and a pattern has been established?
Notice your reflection piece again, back to Joe's. I love his constancy of purpose about everyone he coaches to ensure that they are doing some reflection. That's what you just did. You just explained. I have a little structure by which I do my reflection, but it is a powerful, powerful way to really see, is this a pattern? Because all of us, the 4 of us, know how to put out fires. We have put out fires our whole lives. The question is, who's starting the damn fire? Where are they? How do we go stop the system from producing these fires over and over again? And that's what you can learn by going through this simple 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot. That was great. What else do you have for us, Colleen?
Absolutely. And is it a process? Is it a design flaw, or is it one individual? I think a lot of times all those things help us. So we just have somebody who says, is a coach a mirror to your affirmations? Asking someone to see your I am statements and support you when you are when you are, and help you when you're not. So that's just a question, right? Is the coach a mirror to your affirmations?
Joe?
No. Uh, I think I think a coach is there to be again the safe space, and so there's very much an exploration, in my view, that says, okay, how are you feeling? You know, so here's an incident that the coachee brings up. All right, what are you thinking about that? How do you feel about that? Okay, it sounds like you feel pretty negatively about that. What's kind of why are you in that quadrant? Why are you showing up, as we said a minute ago, that way on that issue? And so again, I think a coach is designed to help you think about, probe, ask questions about why are you thinking what you're thinking, and are you open to learning other perspectives and other points of view. So again, much of this comes back to the ladder of inference, which is all about how we process information.
Yeah.
And as a leader, you need to be operating, as we say, near the bottom of your ladder of inference. You need to be dealing with the world as it is. And so that's kind of the fascinating part of this conversation, I think, is that the leaders allegedly, supposedly, are trying to understand the world as it is, the reality in the business place, the reality in the leadership space, the reality of what's going on, and reacting appropriately to that. However, the challenge is that many times leadership behaviors are off-putting, which prevent them from getting that very information. And so, as we've said here, you've got to develop the trust, and you've got to develop the ability to talk with people, to work with people in a spirit of vulnerability and openness. And that only comes with time. You can't, that's not a change you can make on the weekend. It's not a change you can make in your first day on the job as a new leader or new boss. You can build the foundation. It doesn't, going to the other extreme, it doesn't mean it's going to take 2 or 3 years to build it, but it means you have to consciously work at that to establish that environment where you can understand what's occurring.
So the Joe, it's just beautiful. And I've watched the three of you do this with people. The conversation is the relationship. You spend time in conversation to help you. You're kind of like walking on the journey with the person you're coaching. And part of the work is through curiosity and in learning questions is to make the commonplace look strange, to let people see other possibilities as they go forward. And the three of you do that as good as anyone I've ever seen. And hoping to hold some space so the person that you're coaching can just take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath and reflect. Otherwise, I feel like we're in this hard charging space that just doesn't end. That was brilliant, Joe. Vince, tell us what you're thinking.
I think Joe really put a nice bow on it. I don't know how, I don't have much to add to what he said, except I concur fully. Just, helping people to see the different possibilities. Most people in organizations, they want to do the right thing. People don't come to work to say, I want to do a crappy job. Individual leaders don't, and the people and the teams that you lead don't. So you have to assume that people come, they want to do their best, but sometimes they're hindered by what they saw happen before them, or this is just the way it's done here. And so your ability to go in and, like to Joe's point, to help people see new possibilities and see it differently, really, really is powerful. And it doesn't have to be done in big steps. The leadership journey for me happened over decades, right? I didn't wake up one day and was a guy who knew a lot of things. And I still don't, man. I learn something every day just talking to this team. That ability to kind of be in a place of learning and not a place of knowing, and to help people see different possibilities is really what I captured and took away from Joe's comment. So that was great, Joe. Thanks, man.
I agree. It was wonderful, Joe. And so were yours. I thought you had nothing to add, and you did. So notice that again, everybody thinks they have nothing to add, and so they start to use their own words to explain how someone else's words landed on them. One of the more critical things for us to do together is to always recognize that there's something incredible inside of everyone that we lead. Something absolutely magical that our job is to help draw that out and move it forward. Any final question before we run away here, Colleen, because we're about out of time?
No, I think we're good.
So this is I'm gonna ask you guys to react to this sentence, and this is our closeout piece. So as we become allies to ourselves, our responsibility is to bring the best out in others. Align people around outcomes. Bring the best out of others. If you're helping people think about sustaining an intention into this new year that will bring the best out around themselves and around others, what would you advise that human being to do? What would you say? Here's something I want you to think about. It could be around the journal. It could be around their daily activity. What would be one thing you would bring forward to our listeners today that came here to think about intention and resolution? Who'd like to start?
Wow, we're all jumping right in. I'll go ahead and say, I think the one thing that I would invite people to consider, once they have determined whatever that intention is my invitation is for you to think about how will you consistently keep that top of mind. I think that's what happens, right? We set our intention and then it fizzles out at some point in time. We take the whole day with our team to put together an annual planning, session. We've got these great priorities that we want to focus on, and then they somehow get lost in our day-to-day activities in the whirlwind, right? So my invitation is to devise a plan to ensure that whatever those intentions are, whether whatever they are, that you will consistently keep them top of mind, whether it's in your journal, whether it's ensuring that it's a standing agenda item, perhaps once a week for your team, whether it's connecting agenda items to those annual priorities, however you decide that's done, just ensure you create a plan so those things don't fall to the wayside. And I'm out.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Who'd like to go next?
All right.
Go ahead.
Joe's got so much wisdom, and he's gonna really take us home. So let me just get one thought in. So I would say that to me, if I were a leader and telling people some things to think about as they look at the new year, I would say when you're talking to your people, remember that eye to eye is best whenever possible. Number one. Number two, ask people to restate what they heard you say. Your ability to develop a common understanding is also a critical factor in your ability to move forward. And number three, just slow down and listen. Slowing the conversation down really gives you space in the team space to continue to understand, develop a common understanding, and move forward collectively. So those would be my three closing points, and I'm out.
Thank you, Vince. That was great. Joe?
Now, so my point would just be, and Vince just mentioned this, is closing the loop. I think this is spectacularly important. If you're going to pick one thing to do, again, executives many times feel that, oh, I sent an email, that should be enough, or I said at a meeting this, and that should be enough. And I think in the history of humans, such a thing is almost never enough. It always requires, persistence, and it requires that you close the loop consistently with your employees to see what they heard. So I'm reading a book right now that's about, frankly, without bothering you with all the particulars of the book, it's all about the history of an organization on one side of the world communicating to an organization on the another side of the world, and believing that they are being as transparent as possible. And the truth is that all of their communications are being received and interpreted in a dramatically different way. And nobody ever says, how does this land on you? What are you thinking? What are you doing? And because they didn't do that, it had calamitous results. And so again, that if there is a single thing that an executive can do, I think there are many things executives have to do, but I think if there's a single thing executives can do, it's ask people, what did you hear me say, and how does that land on you?
Are you out, Joe?
And I'm out because my cat is here.
That cat is very affectionate, Joe. I mean, that you have a really soft side, I see.
This is Gandalf. It's very important.
So, so let me just take the three checkouts and do what we started to do. I make sure that every time words are stated in a meeting, I will close the loop. Every time someone makes a statement, a set of statements, a set of sentences, I close the loop. Ladies and gentlemen, the key here is that words that you use about your own resolution, your own intention, your own willingness to improve as a leader, words create pictures in your mind. We know this is true. And very often, the picture that you're creating when someone's speaking to you is not the picture that person has. So, if you're creating an affirmation, make sure that the affirmation, the words you write down, create the desired picture in your mind. And if it has a strong emotional connection, it will occur. It will occur. Not immediately, over time, it will occur. Intention, affirmation, first person, present tense, future focused. Be your own best ally. Be your own best ally. It is taking care of self that is so missing in our world today. We're out there trying to take care of everybody. Take care of yourself. You can't take care of yourself, you won't be around to take care of others. That is exceedingly clear to me because of personal things that have happened during this Christmas season and holiday season. That's so obvious that there were some people, they just were not taking care of themselves. Be your own best ally. Put that critic on the side best you can. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today at our monthly webinar. This is JLC Media. I'm Ray Jorgensen. I hope life is good for you today. Work on those intentions. One's enough.